YouTube. So this is going to be a kind of tougher subject, and I'm going to try my best to get through it, but it might be a little rough. But it's real, so there you go. What I wanted to talk about today is the subject of truth-telling, and specifically, how do you tell the truth, or what does truth-telling mean when you don't necessarily trust yourself? I was inspired to make a video about this listening to an interview with Crystal of Power Femme Tarot, where it was on the Daydreaming Wolves podcast, and she was talking about how she uses the tarot as a tool against gaslighting. So using the tarot as a tool to let me backtrack. I don't actually know Crystal's pronouns, so we'll go with they. Using tarot as a tool to sort of learn to trust themselves again after an experience of a relationship that involved gaslighting. And if you need a content warning, this video will briefly talk a little bit about emotional abuse, but not in any detail. Really, it was just that listening to that made a connection for me, and starting to think about how do you trust yourself? How do you trust yourself to tell the truth, and what does telling the truth really mean? I think in pretty much every movement I'm involved with, truth-telling or personal narrative or self-determination, these things are super important. If we think about the Me Too movement, it's an obvious one in current events. If we think about the importance of narrative and feminism, if we think about honesty and communication and polyamory, like these same kinds of themes keep coming up. And for me, totally on board with all of those things, like think that truth-telling is super important, but also like have a complicated relationship with it because of my personal history. I would say that the most shameful part of my personal history is that I was a compulsive liar from the age of, I want to say 8 or 9 to about 15. And I think I'll always be in recovery from that. And it really affects my relationship with the truth and with truth-telling and with honesty. I believe that I started those kind of behaviors honestly because I had a really privileged childhood. Like I was really, I don't know if sheltered is the right word, but nothing that big happened to me in my early years. Like I remember I had a really huge imagination, and I really craved excitement, and I wanted really cool things to happen to me, and really exciting things, and even negative exciting things. Like I was always jealous when, somebody had something happen in their life and everybody was paying attention to them. I think I really craved attention as a kid, and that led to starting to extrapolate the truth, starting to tell stories. I mean, I was never that good at it. I remember I would just kind of like think about something that I wanted to be true and then tell people it was. So like, I remember telling friends in middle school that I was a gymnast, that I was taking gymnastics, and like we could never like afford actual gymnastics. Like we did some rec center thing, but they would be like, oh, well, show us a flip, and I would come up with some reason like, I can't do it right now, it's not, my coach doesn't want me to, or whatever. I would paint myself into these corners and tell these stories and tell these lies to people, to my peers, sometimes to my mom. I don't think she really bought it, but I would spin these ideas and sometimes even go to pretty extreme lengths to prove that they were true, or to try to make it so that nobody could figure it out. I was very stubborn about it, and I mean, I think it's funny because in a way, like I wanted this attention and I wanted to be cool, and so I told these stories, and I think in some ways, like I didn't have many friends because of that, because I think people can see through that, and people, even young people, can tell if you're not being truthful and they don't want to be friends with you. So eventually, like I got to an age, like I said, around 15ish, where I was tired of it. I was tired of being constantly ashamed of myself and holding all these secrets. And I didn't make any big reveal. Like, I don't think I told anybody about my past, but I made a decision to myself. I'm like, I'm going to stop, cut it out cold turkey, not going to lie anymore. I'm going to tell the truth. And what I would do is if previous lies came up, I would try to change the subject or just sort of like move away. I wouldn't tell people that I had lied, but I would kind of be like, okay, let's move on. And eventually got to the point where the things I had lied about didn't come up that much. Eventually got to the point where, I left high school, I didn't see anybody anymore. I didn't have those same connections, and so it was pretty easy to just push that out of my life. And honesty became a really huge value for me and really important in my life. And in part, I think because it was tempting to expand on stories, to make a joke, make a funny story more interesting. I really stopped myself from doing that, and I would tell anybody who would hear it like how important honesty was to me. And I did practice that, I think, as best I could. I remember it used to bother me that I had a monogamous relationship in college, and like I really admired this one couple that I knew who would tell each other about crushes, because I always thought that was really cool, and like my partner at the time would get jealous if I said I was interested in anybody, but I just wanted to be totally honest. I just wanted to tell each other everything. I remember like I called a break on the relationship because I had feelings for this person that I was going to spend some time with, and it wasn't like I literally thought I was going to physically cheat according to the rules of our relationship, but I felt like emotionally I needed to let this person know the feelings I was having about someone else. So I was just really like, truth telling to him super important to me. But I think over time, sometimes I would sort of relapse, not in a huge way, but definitely would relapse in the sense of, I would make the story more interesting. If the story would be funnier if X happened and these details would change, then I would do that. And whenever I caught myself doing that, I felt really ashamed and really guilty and wanted to fix it. But I think it's hard sometimes to just say, I'm never gonna, everything I say is gonna be 100% truthful. Like, how do you really enact that? And so I would kind of go up and down over time, and how good I was at it. And I think now as an adult, I will occasionally do that thing where I make the story funnier. I feel less guilty about it. Like, I think it's important because of my history to always be aware and always make sure that I'm not slipping further down. But I think at the same time, like, everyone embellishes stories a little bit. And I doubt that other people would find that a problem. But the things that I do find really hard is that, in a way, like, my memory, I can't trust my own memory. When I was lying, like, especially that period of my life, like, I would believe my own stories eventually. That happens to you. If you tell a lie long enough, you start to believe it. And so now, if I go back, like, I don't trust my own memory of that period of my life. And I don't trust my own memory in general that well because of that. Like, I always wonder if I'm slipping, and could I tell if I'm slipping? And this was particularly challenging, and again, a content warning for maybe the next minute or so. When I was in an emotionally abusive relationship, it did involve gaslighting, and I confronted the partner on it, and, like, she, at no point acknowledged that there was emotional abuse going on, emotional manipulation, and no point acknowledged that she was gaslighting me. I'm very grateful to friends I had at the time because they were able to externally confirm and say, like, they had experience of her lying, they had experience of her emotional manipulation, they could see it happening to me, because I really wouldn't have trusted just myself. Like, I think she and other partners in the past, like, have used mental health as a way to kind of say, like, Avery, you're not, like, you shouldn't trust yourself. Like, when I have periods of depression, you can't trust yourself because you're depressed. They would encourage me to make decisions about whether or not to take drugs or what actions to take because they were reliable and I was not. And that was easy to believe. I think even now, like, I think that's a manipulative tactic. At the same time, I don't know that I'm always reliable. I don't know that I can always trust my own truth. We always say, like, trust your truth, tell your truth, but, like, what if you're not sure? And so that was especially hard with gaslighting to get past, because trying to believe myself wasn't as easy a tactic, I think, because of that history. And then it also comes up in the context of identity. Like, I think for a lot of identities now, the way we frame them is if you are the thing, if you say you are the thing, then you are the thing. So like, if you identify as trans, congratulations, you're trans. If you identify as asexual, congratulations, you're asexual. And anytime anybody asks the question, like, here's my story, like, am I trans? I'm always like, you're trans if you think you are. Like, yes, like, you I mean, it's up to you. Like, I can't tell you if you're trans. I can't tell you if you're asexual. I can't tell you if you're a person with disabilities. Like, these are identities that we take on, and self-determination is super important, and I am like 100% like behind that, support that. But I have doubted myself. I've asked myself, I still ask myself, am I really trans, but did I somehow, I don't have a very clear-cut story where it's like I felt dysphoria from the age of 3 and I knew exactly what I was, and like I had persistent dysphoria. You know, I'm one of those cases where it's more liminal, and like I have this intuitive feeling of being non-binary, but I do sometimes wonder what that comes from. Is that real? When I think about a story from my childhood when I rebelled against being on one side of the gender line, is that just apocryphal in my head, changing the details? Like, did I just decide when I was trying to go through, had a period of questioning my gender, and did I just decide, okay, like, I'm going to go with this option, and then convince myself of it? Is it possible that I just convinced myself that I'm trans, and so I'm trans? And if that's possible, that's fucking terrifying. Similarly, like, I learned about auditory processing disorder and determined that I think I have it, but I don't, like, I have difficulty hearing, but I don't think it's the level of some other hard of hearing people. And so I use the label hard of hearing to get access to services, or just as a shorthand, because people understand it. But is my difficulty, like, I don't even know that my difficulty is that much more than other people's. Do I just speak up more about it? Is it just because I sign and therefore interpreters can help me? Like, maybe everybody would be helped by that. And in no way is this video intended as an endorsement of, you know, questioning people who say that they have a disability. And it almost feels weird to talk about this because I don't want you to question other people. But, you know, I question myself just because, like, I don't know, I picked a word and now I'm that word, and what right do I have to do that? I think I do in theory have that right, but how is that complicated by the fact that I can't trust myself 100%? I make this video because I want to tell my story, but also, like, if this resonates with you, if you have a similar story, I want you to know that I hear you. I see you, at least. I hear you a little. I want you to know that, like, you know, I'm here for you, that you're not the only one. And I think there are ways, even if I'm not sure that I'll ever 100% trust myself, like, I think going back to the beginning of this video, there are ways that you can learn to trust yourself more, or learn to be more confident in your truth. Some of the things that I've found, I do find working with the tarot to be an interesting way of verifying what is true for me. Doing intuitive work in general, as opposed to, like, trying to verify facts, like working with my intuition can be powerful. I think doing shadow work or journaling, writing about the past, practicing just, like, writing down what you know to be true, or even, like, what you think to be true, and practicing self-forgiveness, because I think, like, nobody's memory is perfect, nobody's understanding is perfect, and I've learned that, like, honesty is really more about doing your best than being perfect all the time. Trying to tell what you believe to be true at the moment, but understanding that that might adjust. And I think that's part of movement work as well, is, like, we might fight really hard for something and then realize that we're wrong, and I think we need to be open to that it's scary to be open to that with ourselves and open to the fact that we might be wrong. But I think as long as we go forward with a humble heart and an openness and a flexibility, and then look for people who can confirm, who can like help us to understand ourselves and what's going on around us, can also be really supportive. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you have had similar experiences, or if you know of ways to work on this kind of thing, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you think you would enjoy the content in this channel, and I hope you have a great day.